Hello and welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Adman Alexander, the Director of the Office of Family and Community Engagement, and thank you for joining us this evening to hear more about virtual options with Virtual Virginia for the 2021-22 school year. We've learned over the last 14 months that some students have thrived in flexible virtual learning environment, while others have struggled. Knowing that, I want to reiterate that we are committed to providing face-to-face learning for students 5 days per week next year, and we anticipate most of our students will plan to attend school face-to-face next year, as our schools have not been significant contributors to community spread. As a parent myself, I know many of you may be thinking, what should I be considering as I make this decision for my child? Some things to consider are the learning styles of your child, support systems available at home, the learning environment and technology skills needed to be able to work effectively and independently. That being said, our plan is to welcome as many students as possible back to school face-to-face next year, as we know most of our students do better in a face-to-face learning environment, all while providing a rigorous virtual learning experience for those who choose to remain in the virtual setting. So let's begin this presentation about Virtual Virginia. The information tonight will begin about elementary virtual program, followed by information for the secondary virtual program. After all sessions are complete, we will then ask some of the questions that you submitted through our online form. At this time, I would like to introduce our panelists today. First, from Virtual Virginia, Jason Buendorf. I know I said it wrong again, Jason, I'm so sorry. K-12 Instructional Administrator. Jason joined Virtual Virginia in 2010 as an instructor prior to moving into an instructional coaching position. Jason, as a classroom teacher for 10 years, joined Virtual Virginia to teach AP Statistics and Geometry. He has experience writing curriculum and has provided professional development and training for staff. Next, Ms. Sarah Warnick, the Director of Products and Services. Sarah oversees instruction, curriculum development, and the Virtual Virginia Outreach Program. A Virginia educator with 20 years of experience, both in classroom and online, Sarah has worked to expand access to high-quality online learning experiences for educators and students across the Commonwealth. Next, we have Dr. Brian Mott. He's the Executive Director of Virtual Virginia. Dr. Mott joined Virtual Virginia in 2007 as an instructor prior to moving into the role of program administrator. Dr. Mott has worked across a wide variety of domains to include curriculum, instruction, distance learning, instructional design and technology, and instructional leadership. He has worked to design, develop, implement, and administer online courses and program initiatives. Welcome and thank you all for joining us today. From BB Schools, I would like to welcome Ms. Cheryl Woodhouse, Senior Executive Director of High Schools, Dr. Linda Hayes, Director of Elementary, Dr. Kit Rogers, Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Sharon Shoebridge, Director of Instructional Technology, and a special thanks to our American Sign Language interpreter, Ms. Kim Fox and Ms. Stacy Lowe. Thank you so much, Kim and Stacy, for doing this for us tonight. Well, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mott to talk about Virtual Virginia's elementary and secondary programs. Dr. Mott.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Me and my team are happy to be here to tell you a little more about Virtual Virginia. As mentioned, we're going to begin by talking about the K-5 program. For those of you who are new to Virtual Virginia, let me begin at the top. Virtual Virginia is kind of hard to define, but we are the Department of Education's online course, professional learning, and digital content provider. And in that space, we offer many services to public schools. And how this works is a partnership. So Virginia Public Schools and Virtual Virginia partner together to ensure that learners have access and opportunity that complement those available in the physical school. So let's talk a bit more about the partnership and what it looks like. When Virtual Virginia partners with a public school division, we're trying to create a successful online learner environment so both parties do what they're best at. At Virtual Virginia, we provide access to content, resources, instruction, and the online learning environment. And the public school does what they do best. They provide counseling services, a mentor to facilitate interaction between Virtual Virginia and the public school, and any textbooks, materials, and student services remain the responsibility of the public school as well. So as I mentioned, we're both working together to create the environment for a successful online learner. Let's begin by talking about our K-5 program. I'm going to kick it to our Director of Products and Services, Sarah Warnick, to tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Dr. Mott. Virtual Virginia is so pleased to be able to offer a K-5 online program for this next year. And through this program, we are going to be teaching the core content areas from kindergarten through grade 5. So we'll be teaching math, science, social studies, reading and language arts, and STEM. All of our content is built by Virtual Virginia, and we've worked with educators all across the state to create the content and to vet it. So it's built from the Virginia standards, and it's supporting the same standards that are used in Virginia Beach. Virtual Virginia provides that full-time teacher of record. This is a teacher that's going to be working with their core group of students. No class size over 24, so the class size is aligned with the Virginia standards of quality. Our model is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction, and we'll talk about what that means in just a moment with the schedule. We support division autonomy, so the divisions will be able to provide specials and local assessments, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well, what that means with the diagnostic testing, such as PALS. Our model also incorporates one-to-one and small group instruction. We know that that's a really important piece in supporting our younger learners. We also have office hours for parents and guardians because that communication piece to support the parents who are working with students is really critical in their success. So what does this look like for the schedule? First of all, our Virtual Virginia teachers are available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. They're working with students in synchronous sessions from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. most days. So what happens after that time? The teachers use that time for small group sessions, for one-to-one support, for parent-teacher conferences, and for lesson planning. Part of the Virtual Virginia model is also offering supplemental lessons, and these are offered daily in art, dance, world languages, STEM, and wellness. We're making sure to support some additional options that may not be available for students. K-5 attendance is taken daily during synchronous sessions. Students are expected to participate in the synchronous session activities and to use their camera. The parents and guardians should contact the Virtual Virginia teachers anytime that a class is missed so that students can make up that missed work. Absences are reported every day, and they're reported to the parent and to the enrolling school division, so they follow the local attendance policies. So I'm going to jump in and just talk a little bit about the sample schedule, because this is really gives you an idea of what the day looks like for our students. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, students always start with a morning meeting. This is a welcome, a time for students to really work on the social emotional learning piece and really work on building community. Each teacher, again, students stay with the same content teacher throughout the day, working on all of the main core content areas. So they really do build that wonderful community. At 8:15, they transition into reading and language arts, and it's a mix of whole group instruction, small group instruction, asynchronous work, independent reading or writing. There are built-in breaks throughout the day. These might be independent or they might be teacher-led. One example is from a recent class. It was a first grade teacher who put on some music and led the students in a dance party just to get up as a group and move. But it's important to have those breaks where students stand up and move and get away from the screen, and those are built into the schedule. At 9:30, students transition into math. Again, it's that combination of whole group and small group and independent practice. At 10:30, they have the specialty class offered by Virtual Virginia, and that's a supplemental class in physical and activity and wellness, world languages, dance, and the arts. We have another break for lunch and recess, again, encouraging students to move away from the screen, get up and move, and then they come back for direct instruction in social studies and science. Every day closes with an afternoon meeting. That's where the teacher will go over what they've learned that day. Again, an opportunity for social emotional learning and team building. So this is the schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Wednesdays look a little different. On Wednesdays, students have a more extensive morning meeting. So again, working on those, on that character and team building and that community building as a group. They do have direct instruction in reading and language arts and math. They also have direct instruction in STEM. Students in K through 5 are going to be working towards monthly projects where they're going to be reinforcing the math and the science standards that they're learning each month with a real world practical application. From 10:45 until 3, students will have asynchronous and independent work. And again, this is an opportunity for teachers to meet with them in small groups and also offer one-to-one instruction. So this is an idea of what the overall schedule will be like for students. And you can see that it's got some flexibility built in to support students getting some direct instruction and some services from the local division as well in the afternoons. Student accommodations and student accounts. Counselors enroll students in Virtual Virginia, and this is done at the division level for Virginia Beach, and they will share the login information prior to students starting for that first day. Counselors also enter and update student accommodations in the Virtual Virginia Student Information System. And what this does is it starts a conversation with Virtual Virginia teachers where we partner with the local division to make sure that we're fully implementing any accommodations a student may have in place. We work with the local division, with the counselors and those designated as mentors to make sure that we're monitoring progress and working with the teachers to organize any academic support conferences. We want to make sure that students are fully supported and that we're working as a team. So I'm going to turn things over to instructional coach Jason Buendorf to talk about the assessments and grades.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So as far as assessments and grades, SOL assessments are done by the local school. So that means that Virtual Virginia does not administer the end of course SOL assessments or diagnostic tests such as the PELS testing or any other testing that would occur at the elementary level. These tests are administered by the local school according to the division schedule. And so our teachers are accustomed to being flexible around that time frame and can certainly work with students accordingly to allow those testing periods to happen. As far as Virtual Virginia grades, we provide a numerical grade for all courses. The local school will then take that numerical grade and convert it to their local scale for proper grade reporting and printing of report cards and putting into their system for the interim, quarter, and semester grades. As far as parent auditor accounts, Virtual Virginia teachers will communicate regularly with students and parent guardians to share weekly work, progress, and upcoming deadlines. And one form or example of that is a Do This Week email. All of our instructors send a weekly email once a week, typically on Sundays or early Monday mornings, where it's kind of an announcement, a welcome for the week, laying out the assignments and what to expect for the week. And that communication is standard across all of our courses and with all of our teachers. Certainly, there's additional communication that will take place between the teacher and the parents throughout the week. But that Do This Week email is definitely something that all of our teachers do. Parents and guardians can certainly monitor their students' progress through an auditor account at Virtual Virginia. That is something that is available where you can monitor that progress. And this role does provide parents and guardians with access to course features like the calendar and the grades. So you'll be able to see if there's missing assignments or see what is coming up and be able to monitor the students' performance in the course. And just to kind of emphasize that relationship with the parents, we cannot do this without you. This model of support at home and virtual learning, we value the parents greatly. In education, parents are always appreciated, but with our program, with Virtual Virginia, we rely so heavily on that parent support, both with a physical workplace location where the students can work in an environment that supports them, but also in that communication piece where our teachers are able to partner with you and support that learner at home and make sure that they are getting what they need. And so the communication is very strong. We appreciate communicating with you, and the emails, the phone calls, that relationship with our instructors is something we do deeply value.
Thank you, Mr. Buendorf. So we're going to transition back to Dr. Mott, and also I believe if there may be any questions.
jump right in and we'll go into the 612 program. Virtual Virginia 6 to 12 program, very similar to our K through 5 program and that relationship with the schools. Again, Virtual Virginia partners with the public school, trying to create an environment that supports online learners. Virtual Virginia, again, providing access to the content, the resources, that instructor of record in a learning environment. And the public school, again, providing counseling services, a school-based mentor to foster the relationship between the Virtual Virginia instructor and the school. And any textbooks, materials, and student services, again, remain the responsibility of the school. Sarah, I'll kick it back to you to tell us a little bit about our 6 through 12 teachers.
Thank you so much. So the 6 through 12 students, when they're working with their teachers, their full-time teachers work from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. and on Fridays from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. There are some evening office hours built throughout the week, and that's to allow some flexibility for student schedules that may differ. We recognize that our secondary students may be taking some courses, just a handful of courses with Virtual Virginia, or they might be full-time, so we allow some flexibility with that schedule. Synchronous course components include 3 content sessions per week, 1 Q&A session, where students can drop in and ask questions about the content, maybe any assignments that they're working through, and they can set one-to-one appointments on Fridays. So we have one day specifically dedicated for one-to-one appointments, although students are invited to set those with their teachers throughout the week. Again, just like with our younger learners, instructors communicate regularly with students. That communication piece is really key to helping students stay engaged, stay motivated, and stay on pace. One example that Jason Buendorf mentioned is the Do This Week email that goes out every single week to let students know what's coming up in the class, what they'll be working on, when the live sessions will take place. And again, students also are able to communicate with their teachers by email. Teachers are available by phone and also in synchronous sessions, whether that's as a whole group, a small group, or one-to-one. Our middle school schedule, and if you all are interested in looking at this, it is available on the Virtual Virginia website as well. Our middle school schedule includes synchronous instruction every day of the week, an opportunity to engage in a session just like this in Zoom with the teachers and the other students in the class. So there is content, there are sessions every day between 8 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Again, it's that model built on 3 content sessions per week, where they do a deeper dive into content. They may discuss specific topics. Might be an opportunity to present projects. So student presentations are also a part of what happens in that synchronous time. There's that day dedicated for the Q&A, and then the synchronous support for small groups and one-to-one. The high school sample schedule for 9 through 12 looks very similar. Again, we're meeting students' needs, whether they're taking all of their courses with Virtual Virginia or just some. Their schedule runs from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. and there are some flexible hours allotted in the afternoon and evening, later evening. And that's to meet the needs of some of those courses that are taught only by adjunct instructors, for example, AP Music Theory. And so we do allow some flexibility. Student attendance at these sessions is really encouraged. We have found that students thrive in the online environment when they're really taking part in all of the synchronous opportunities that are available to them. But we allow flexibility if a student can't attend. We record the sessions and they go into a course library where students can access that information later. So the schedule provides a lot of opportunities to engage, but there is built-in flexibility so that students, we're supporting student needs as they may need to work on different things. Student accounts and accommodations, again, those counselors and those at the division level will enroll students in the Virtual Virginia program and they'll share login information securely with students so that they're prepared to start on that first day. Counselors will also enter and update student accommodations in the Virtual Virginia Student Information System, and Virtual Virginia teachers will take that information and will start a conversation with the local school to determine how and what to implement with the accommodations. And really, some of the most common accommodations that we easily implement are built into the system. For example, there's a read aloud, a screen reader that's built into all of the course pages and in all of the assessments. It is very easy for Virtual Virginia teachers to implement extended time, multiple attempts, chunking of material, reduction of assignments. We work really closely with the case manager and those designated by the school to ensure that students are fully supported no matter what their learning needs are. Counselors and mentors, again, the partnership that Dr. Mott talked about earlier, we really work closely with the counselors and mentors designated by the school and the division to make sure that if we have some concerns about a student performance piece, that we're setting up those academic support conferences to address any areas of concern. And we work together with the school and the family to make sure that the students are fully supported. So I'm going to turn things over to Jason Bjorndorfer to talk about assessments and grades and how that's handled at the secondary level.
So it's handled very much like the way we set it up for the elementary level as well. SOL assessments, again, Virtual Virginia does not administer those as far as end of course assessments and diagnostic tests. That is handled at the local school level according to their schedule. Virtual Virginia grades are again numeric grades, and so we provide to the school division a numeric grade for the course, and then the school will then be able to view and pull that grade to then apply it to their local grading scale. And they'll do that based on their grade reporting periods, whether it be interim, quarter, or semester, and also end of course grades. As far as the attendance for 6 to 12, synchronous session attendance is encouraged. We strongly encourage that. And when students ask if they have to come, do they have to be there? Our answer is it is very important for you to be there to be successful in your course. That is, we can't emphasize that enough. Engaging with that instructor and being there with the course and engaging with students in that live session, that is really what sets apart the quality of learning that happens in those courses. Now, we understand that there are certainly interruptions and students have other commitments and they're not going to be able to make it to every synchronous session. They are always recorded and they are always posted in the modules within a course video library. And so students will always have access to those recordings as that library builds. If they miss a session here and there, there's no penalty for them. They can simply just watch those recordings. Again, but that engagement piece is something that we certainly value, and we do stress that in all of our courses. As far as those recordings, they do remain intact in those courses throughout the remainder of the course, and so students can go back and refresh those as needed, and that has worked very well for students this year. Parent auditor accounts are also available for parents. We've got teachers will communicate regularly, again, with that due this week email. We also have automated systems in place to congratulate students and to let parents know when their students are doing very well in a course. They get it's called a positive email. We'd love to hear that. It's a congratulations type of message. And students love to receive those. And then we also have those alert communications set up for students if they happen to be missing some assignments or they fall below a certain threshold, where it's just kind of a warning message. Maybe they were sick, maybe they missed a few days. Or maybe they have become inactive in the course, and we can help get them on track quickly through that warning message. So those emails are set up, but the weekly due this week is communication that teachers do send out to all stakeholders, particularly parents and students, just giving them that, again, that rundown of what's coming up for the week. This is what we learned last week. This is what's coming up. Here are your assignments, and this is what you need to look out for this week. That try to give them some guidance and a little bit of an outline to follow. And the parent support, again, at the 6 to 12 level is also very much appreciated. Many times, I'll be in a student conference in Zoom with a parent, a student, a counselor, and we work with you. We work with you to hear the concerns, hear the situation, maybe a PACE recovery plan to support the student if they did fall behind. There is a lot of one-on-one support available and support for the student. We understand that students do learn from virtual learning experience, and if it's new for them, they may learn from some mistakes. They may not manage their time well sometimes, and they need some support for that. But honestly, that key relationship happens with the teacher and the parent. Having that support system in place and that partnership and that collaboration with the parent really makes this model work for the students.
Thank you, Mr. Bjorndorf. So I would invite you, if you are interested in getting more information and seeing some of the support documents that provide further information about either the K through 5 program or the 6 through 12 program, please visit the Parent Guardian Support page on the Virtual Virginia website. We've got some documents there as well that you can download and print and save, and some documents about some support services that we provide in partnership and how we work with the local school divisions. So Dr. Mott, I'm going to turn things back over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Sarah. So we've told you a bit about Virtual Virginia, and now we're going to work with Virginia Beach and kick it back to Dr. Alexander to wrap this up.
Thank you. So we have a couple questions were submitted via our submission form on vbschools.com. The first question is, what date in August will be the start date? Is it August 10th or August 24th?
I'll jump right in and answer that one, Dr. Alexander. Yeah, we plan to begin on August 24th. That is the date that is closest to the normal starting date for Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And we are looking forward to being able to partner with Virtual Virginia to start our students on that day. Now, I will also share that as soon as students are registered for Virtual Virginia, as Dr. Mott and his team has shared, Virtual Virginia does begin making communication with families and with students to acclimate them to the Virtual Virginia platform, which uses Canvas, as was shared earlier, which is a little different from what we're using right now with Schoology. So August 24th is the start date for students, and they do end a little earlier as well. They end in May, and I don't have that date committed to memory right off. Dr. Mott, that second cohort, is it May 18th?
I believe it's May 27th.
May 27th. I'm making up dates. May 27th. Don't quote me with the May 18th. That's August 24th and May 27th.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers and Dr. Mott. So the
So-
next question, if a family is interested in signing up for Virtual Virginia, where do they sign up? How do they do that for their elementary or middle school student?
I'll jump right in there.
Dr. Rogers, I'm gonna throw that back to you.
Is that me? Yes.
Answer that, Dr. Rogers.
So the first point of contact will be the schools, and our school counselors will work very closely with our students and the families and have a discussion about making sure that they are making the best decision for their family. And they'll take them through a series of just questions to make sure that virtual learning is the right option for them. And then from there, the counselors will work very closely with our central office staff administrators. Dr. Shoebridge is on the call. Dr. Shoebridge, wave your hand, please. She and her team will work very closely with our school-based counselors and with Virtual Virginia staff to make sure that we are using their registration platform, and we'll get students all registered. And then we will start that process just after the pre-survey is completed, and that's May 16th. So soon thereafter, we will start registering our students for the Virtual Virginia platform and get them started on their journey in virtual world.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Certainly.
I'm hoping this question is for Virtual Virginia to give you a break a little bit. Will students have the same agenda with learning as far as breakout groups, individual groups, time with teacher, et cetera? Dr. Ma, I think your team might be able to answer that particular question.
Yeah, absolutely. So the schedule at Virtual Virginia is built for all of those, for students to have large group instruction, small group instruction, one-to-one with their teacher. And there, again, that's by design. We build the K-5 synchronous piece to run from roughly 8 to 1 o'clock every day. So those afternoons are free for different types of varying instruction to meet student needs. And in the 6 through 12 level, again, our schedule is posted online. Those days vary. So essentially it's a cascade. What if you have English one day at 8 o'clock, the next day it's at 9, the next day it's at 10. That's to avoid conflict so students don't miss many courses, but also because it does free up time, specifically on Fridays, that one day in 6 through 12 where learners have time for one-to-one with their teacher, small group, and other synchronous instruction.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Mott.
I'll jump in there and clarify, Dr.
Oh, go ahead.
Alexander. From a teacher's experience or from personally running that schedule on the 6 to 12 time frame, it really does work well. Instruction is offered on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in synchronous sessions. Thursday, I run live sessions as well, synchronous sessions, but it's been it's an open time for Q&A. And so I'm able to work with smaller groups or do breakout rooms and have Q&A time with my students where they drive the session. If they want to focus on a specific topic or something that they're really struggling with, that's allowed on that Thursday. Friday, Canvas utilizes a calendar feature called Appointment Scheduler. And a lot of our teachers are trained to do that. All of them are trained to do that, where they set up appointment block in Canvas, and students can then select that 15-minute or 20-minute appointment block, whatever teacher set, to reserve that one-on-one slot with their teacher. So it's not something that it's hard to schedule with the teacher. It's already there in the calendar. They simply just click and they get there and they can reserve that time slot. So it really is a unique model, and there is a varying approach to making sure that students are getting the whole group instruction, small group, and they have access to that one-on-one.
Can I ask that we expand on that question just a little bit there with the secondary schedule, particularly at the high school level? There's a the last block of time. It says from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Can we kind of give an idea of what that might look like? Because I don't want families to think that we have students in class up until 9 p.m. each day.
Sure, yeah, I'll let Sarah speak to it in just a moment. But essentially, we do have a high school schedule that accommodates both 4x4 and full year courses. And some of those courses are taught in the evenings, but a student would not typically be online from 8 a.m. beginning until 9 p.m. at night. There would be either long breaks in between, or there may just be one course in the evening, one session for the students to attend. And we found that there has been a lot of success because many of the parents and guardians are present during that time as well. If they have work hours during the day, they're able to be present with their student while they're learning.
And Dr. Mott, really the only thing that I would add to that is that often it's just a specialty course that a student might be taking. Most students will have their instruction happen between what are considered traditional hours. And but it just occasionally there are some courses that are taught in the afternoon and evenings, and it's 6 to 9, but it's a window, and the instructional piece will happen within their sessions are usually between 30 and 45 minutes, and there's some time afterwards for students to ask questions and to really stay after if they want to and get some clarification and work one-on-one with their teachers. But it is an open window, and it's not and it's just that opportunity for students. And if they miss a session, they are recorded. They go into the course video libraries, and students really do rely on that flexibility to make it work for their schedules, because we're serving students that have a variety of needs. They may be traveling, they may be doing sports, they may have activities after school, they may work. And so we work really closely with them to try and personalize it to meet their needs. And that's where that one-to-one piece in those small groups really come into play, because our schedule does allow for that flexibility.
Ms. Warner, can you speak a little bit more about the online library and where that is located? And is it really easy accessible for students and families?
Sure, absolutely. Every course has what we call a course video library. And this is just a repository of all of the content sessions that have happened throughout the year. And so that's located in their course and modules. I know you all are probably familiar with the foldering that happens in Schoology and where to access it, but it's very easy to access with a click, and students will see a list of all of the dates and the topics and a link that will take them directly to that schedule. So it's located in their course. We don't want them to have to search for it. It's called Course Video Library. It's in the same location in all of our courses, so that teachers and students, whether they're taking one course or many courses with Virtual Virginia, they all know where to go to access those recordings. And so it is really useful for students if they miss a session, whether it's due to illness or some other reason, they can go back, they can see what they missed, access that information, get in touch with their teacher for questions. But it's also really useful when it comes time for reviews, and students can go back and look at what happened in those content sessions again.
Thank you. And Mr. Buendorf, I have a quick question for you. And this is regard to the platform. There have been many platforms. There are a lot of platforms out there, from Google Meets to Zoom, and probably others that I'm not even aware about. What does Virtual Virginia? What kind of platform do they utilize?
So we have Canvas as our learning management system. That is our primary platform for hosting our content, our lessons, the calendar, and that's where the tests and quizzes will always be. As far as the synchronous session platform, we use Zoom, just like this. We utilize Zoom, and students can join with their instructors. We have the option to do breakout rooms, there's chat, and there's a lot of nice features within Zoom that do give the instructor the ability to limit the chat. So the chat messages only go to the instructor for those students that maybe will do better and not be embarrassed to accidentally type a wrong answer. So there's those capabilities. And especially for the elementary learners, sometimes when the chat's going crazy, the instructor needs to be able to slow that down, and they can certainly do that in Zoom. There's also the capabilities to control the video and the webcams, but our instructors are all provided with training to go over what we call synchronous session norms, just online behavior expectations. And we go over that, and a lot of instructors will actually show those norms in every single synchronous session as they start, just so that students are reminded of it's good to mute your mic when you come in, it's good to greet the teacher. And when the recording starts, if they're not comfortable with their web camera turned on for 6 to 12, that's totally fine. We understand that. For elementary learners, they do need to have their web cameras on, and that is very important for their attendance and for that social engagement with the teacher. And so that is certainly encouraged there. But I hope that answers your question as far as the platforms. There's built-in discussion boards also in Canvas, lots of interaction pieces. Our instructors can give audio, video, text, feedback, as well as files. Canvas has a lot of features, and it's very intuitive, and we found that it's very effective in managing students.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mott, I'm going to throw the next question to you. We've had a lot of people ask this particular question. Will virtual classes include students from multiple school divisions or is it just only Virginia Beach School Division?
Virtual Virginia brings students together from all over the state, and that's really important as part of their learning process to build that community with others from different parts and different regions across the Commonwealth. So learners are typically grouped based on age, obviously grade level, right, with their peers across the state. And again, it really does help build that community for learners to see, how other students across the state go about doing the same things, but just in different ways.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Mott. All right, I'm going to shift the tables a little bit to go to ask some questions from our Virginia Beach City Public School leadership. Dr. Shoebridge, I'm going to start with you. And this just involves Chromebooks. And will students be provided Chromebooks by BBCPS if they're enrolled in Virtual Virginia?
Yes, well, thank you so much. Yes, because the child, your student, is enrolled in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, the homeschool will assign your student a Chromebook. And then if there's any internet supports needed, just like this year, we have our bbcpssupport.com website, and you can go there if you need internet support or information about that. So we will be supporting students and their Chromebooks next year.
Thank you, Dr. Shoebridge. Ms. Woodhouse, a lot of students obviously choosing or thinking about choosing Virtual Virginia. School activities and sports is definitely on their mind. So will students be able to be enrolled in Virtual Virginia and still be allowed to participate in their schools after school activity and sports? That's a mouthful.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. That's a great question, and that's one I receive quite often. So as long as students are enrolled in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, although they're attending Virtual Virginia, they will still be assigned to their homeschool and will be able to participate in all homeschool extracurricular activities and sports through their homeschool. The only challenge that may come about will be transportation, as those students would be responsible for providing their transportation to and from school unless our activity buses are already running. If our activity buses are running, then most definitely our students will be able to participate.
Thank you, Ms. Woodhouse.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Hayes, I'm going to come to you next, and this really centers around the gifted program. Are gifted services offered through Virtual Virginia? And does this mean like a child has to, if it's not, does it mean the child has to go back face-to-face instruction?
Okay, thank you. Yes. Gifted services cannot be provided in the core classes through Virtual Virginia. However, they can be provided by the designated Virginia Beach City Public School gifted resource teacher after Virtual Virginia core content hours. The enrolling school will work to provide time outside the virtual Virginia core content hours for instruction and support related to gifted services. Students identified as gifted at the high school level have a variety of challenging classes, including AP courses for which they may register in Virtual Virginia as long as they have completed any identified prerequisites.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Ms. Woodhouse, I'm gonna come back to you because you know you're my favorite, so I'm gonna come back to you. So Ms. Woodhouse, if a family decides they want to register for Virtual Virginia, or excuse me, if they want to go in person in September, can they change their mind and then enroll in Virtual Virginia if they don't like the in-person learning?
So we would honestly like for our families to make a decision in terms of whether or not they would enroll their students as option 2 virtual students and ask that they remain option 2 virtual students for the entire school year. We know we offered some flexibility to families this year, and we will always partner with Virtual Virginia for any of our students who have challenges or are struggling academically. But we do ask our families when they are contemplating which option for their students, that they understand that we would hope and hold them to maintaining that for the entire school year.
Thank you, Ms. Woodhouse.
You're welcome, sir.
And then I'm gonna come back. Sorry, I lost my questions. Virtual Virginia, Dr. Mott, I'm gonna come back to you for a few more questions. But the one question I have for you, Dr. Mott, is how should a student who is choosing to go into Virtual Virginia, how should they begin to start preparing for that? Because it may be a transition for them. So what are your suggestions?
Sure. You know, my first suggestion is to chill. We've all had a long year, right? My second suggestion is, you know, let us onboard you. As referenced earlier, we will begin communicating with parents and students long before courses begin. You know, we talk about onboarding students, right, and making sure students are successful. We've talked about that a lot tonight, but it really begins with communication. When students are enrolled, Virtual Virginia will begin communicating with the student and the parents and guardians well before the courses begin. That's because on day one, we want everybody to be prepared, to know the expectations, and to feel supported. And that's our commitment. Our commitment to student learning. We want to really strive to this partnership with Virginia Beach. We want to uphold Virginia Beach's commitment as well. And so we want students to feel prepared, engaged, and supported on day one.
Thank you, Dr. Mott. And one of the last questions I have, not necessarily for you, but maybe just for your team. You guys spoke a little bit about this already, but what might be a typical day for a senior in the Virtual Virginia program?
So I can jump in. A typical day starts with them getting up and just logging in wherever their workspace is. I think probably that's one of the things that families will want to decide. Where is the student going to be? Where are they learning? What does that workspace look like? What do they need for their learning? So get up. We know that the synchronous schedule will be in place for all of the classes, and really the schedule just depends on when it starts for what those content areas are and when the synchronous pieces are. It is a balance of synchronous instruction and then going in and working through those weekly assignments. Virtual Virginia courses they're paced for making sure that students have optimum time going through the course content, to attend the sessions, to ask questions, and there are due dates spaced throughout the week. So students will have things to do every day in each of their courses. So I would say that it's a variety. They'll be in sessions for a while and then they can go do some work asynchronously. They'll jump back into sessions and then work asynchronously. There are built-in breaks throughout the day too. And we really encourage them, not just like the younger students, but we encourage them to get up, move, to be active, to take a walk around the block, to get away from the screen for a little bit. That's an important part as well.
Thank you. Those brain breaks are always important, whether you're face-to-face or you're virtual. And so the last question I have is for Dr. Rogers. Dr. Rogers, we know that some students thrive in a virtual environment while others have struggled. As a parent, what should I be thinking about as I make this decision with my child?
So Dr. Alexander, that is a great question. And first, I want to preface it to all of our families and staff that are listening that Virginia Beach we're committed to making sure that we open school in the fall, ready for our learners to come 5 days a week and to do so safely. And we're preparing for that. We're preparing to be able to support students and ready them for the grade that they're in and prepared to address their unfinished learning from this year in the best way that we possibly can. We want all of our students face-to-face, 100%, 5 days a week. And we learned from this year that many of our students, as you shared, did phenomenally well in the virtual setting. And we absolutely want to continue that in the best way that we possibly can next year. So that means that you have to take stock into how your child or your children learn best. And Virtual Virginia has a great short resource on their website that asks a simple question, how does my learner learn best? And I think there are about 5 or 6, but we just put out today a fantastic resource that you can take a look at with your family. It's just a readiness questionnaire that you can ask yourself as well as your learner that talks about the characteristics of the learning. There's several questions that you can just kind of go through and answer yes or no to them. So for example, are you comfortable having less in-person time with other students? And some students are. Some students do very well, independent learning. Can you participate in virtual instructional activities with minimal support services? In other words, a lot of the work that students are going to be doing is independently based. And that's a characteristic that students who have that skill or are able to develop that skill do very well in a virtual setting. Another question is, does the support of an adult, a caring adult, is that person available often to support students should they have some challenges or difficulty? Does the parent or guardian feel comfortable supporting a student with help and guidance when it's needed? Because the virtual learning opportunity, even now, is a combination of both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Sometimes, especially our youngest learners in grades K through 2, they need support. And I will share that our preference for students in grades K through 2 and our students with disabilities and our English language learners and our students who happen to have 504s, our preference is for them to come to school face-to-face next year, 5 days a week. I have to put that out. But we want to make sure that we have good support at home from them. The environment at home, is it conducive for the student to learn 5 days a week independently and virtually? And just think about where we are this year at home, and is that going to be able to be replicated next year? What will that look like? The technology, does your student have access to the technology that they need? Of course, as you know, this year, those families that had some challenges and difficulty with connectivity, we were able to support them, and we will certainly continue to do so next year. But is your learner at home able to independently log in and out independently without support if you're at work? Or is grandma or papa or mima able to help that child log in and log out if there are challenges and difficulties? So those are real questions that you have to be able, we want you to be able to answer and troubleshoot. And our school counselors and teachers and central office staff are here to support you, to help you ask those questions to make the best decision that you can for your families. And maybe you've already made that decision, and that is absolutely okay. We are certainly not transferring our students from Virginia Beach City Public Schools to Virtual Virginia, and with the expectation that all the learning and support and guidance and resources is left up to them. This is a true partnership that we're building, and it is still new for us, but nevertheless, we are still planning to make sure that we are joined at the hip as related to our students, because when the rubber meets the road, they are still Virginia Beach City Public School students. And that is absolutely first. So just making sure that students are ready in those areas that are there. I encourage you to check out the readiness questionnaire and have those questions ready, and having a conversation and partnering with your child to have those conversations, because next year it's going to look a little different. It will, absolutely, but we will make sure that it works for everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
That was a long answer to the question, but I felt I needed to put that out there.
But it was a good one, though. It was long, but it was good. Well, thank you, everybody. That wraps up our Q&A and our information session tonight. Thank you to all the panelists for your time, your expertise, and this great information. As a reminder to everyone, this session has been recorded and will be on vbschools.com. And if you have additional questions, please visit our FAQs on vbschools.com, and also visit the Virtual Virginia website as well. As Dr. Rogers spoke about, there's a readiness survey that went out. So please take that as well and have conversations with your family. Next week, next Thursday, will be our last and final information session on May 13th with Virtual Virginia. And the last reminder, please do not forget to complete your pre-enrollment survey, which is now available to all families through ParentView. The survey will be open until May 16th, so please do not forget to fill that out. On behalf of VBCPS, I want to thank you, be safe, and have a great evening.